Hello, hello. I am so happy to be here. We are jumping into the next section on our human design chart. We're diving into our profiles. And so, as we kind of talked a little bit about our types, the types is going to be kind of this like, let's talk about it in a story outline. I'm a kindergarten teacher. And so, when I read this, I was like, oh, this helped click so good about the pieces of our story. And so when we talk about our type, which we did the last call, which is our manifesting generator or our time bender, our orchestrator or the projector, our alchemist or the generator, we have the reflector, and then the initiator and the manifester. Those are our types. That's kind of like the setting in the story. So it's the very general outer shell. It's going to be your type of aura, the type of people that's going to get pulled into your setting. And then we also have our then we have the profiles, which we're going to get to now, which is going to be kind of like your costume, kind of like your character in the story. This is really going to jump into your personality traits. You're going to dive a little bit more into the personality here. And so the basis of our profile is also the recognition that we have that duality of the red lines and the black lines. And so the red lines and the black lines, remember, are going to be our personality, which is our conscious side. And then we have our body, which is, our personality is the red, that's our subconscious. Our black side is going to be our conscious side. And so when we have that, the duality, we feel that internally. And so we're going to be aware of some traits and we're not going to be really aware of the other. And so we are binary in consciousness. It's a synthesis of the personality and the design within the profile that we are able to understand the quantum of the two. And this really is bringing together us as being physical, energetic beings and talking really about the quantum physics, our whole duality, trying to come into as one. And so, there are 6 different roles. And so we talk about our profiles 1 through 6 as a hexagram. And this is coming from the Chinese I Ching. And so I like to talk about it. We talk about it as a house. And so it kind of helps build a little bit of a structure. And so the 6 lines and their qualities. So the first line is like your foundation. That is going to be the cement base on the bottom of the house. The second line is going to be our living space on the first floor of the house, where other people can see into. It's welcoming, it's open. The third line is going to be the transitional space. You're on the stairway, the hallway, going into something. This is going to be our gateway to get into the upper level. And so our 1, 2, and 3 personalities being on that first level are very personal destiny. So if you are, I am a 1-3 profile. Both of my numbers are in that first part of the house. So I am here to be on a personal journey. It is very personal for me. I'm here to learn what I like, what I don't like. Now, as we go upstairs, we go into the 4, 5, and 6. We come into the external part. So the fourth line is on the second story. It's the second foundation. It's kind of bridging the gap between the third and the fourth. And so it's starting to talk to the community. It's starting to share bigger ideas with more of a community setting. We come into the 5th line, and that is kind of the mysterious bedroom. It's kind of closed. It's closed off. It's on the upper level. It's learning. It's mysterious. It's going to share something powerful, though, with the rest of the world. It has this viewpoint of being on the second floor. And then the 6th line is on the roof of the house. They are sitting on the bird's eye. They can oversee everything. And so just like it was important to understand every type of person that there was, whether it was a manifestor or whether it was a generator, all of those types, to understand that we have all of these different energies. And as we know the different pieces, we can all start to work synergetically, right? Then we don't have to put all of the weight of the world on our own shoulders. It's the same thing when we start to learn these personality traits. When we can really start to hone in and harness our skills and learn that there are so many other types that are really meant to do those other tasks, we can learn to let go, we can learn to delegate, we can learn to empower the other people to follow their profile type, to follow their thing. And so I want to start just basically talking about each type separately. And then if you're live on the call, I'm going to talk specifically about your type. And then a couple of the ones that are very common, just because as we piece it together, you'll see a little bit easier of a marriage of the two, and you'll also see a little bit easier of that duality. And so the first line, the one that's on the foundation, those are my investigators. They are here as the introspection, the chameleons. They're the ones with the empathy. And so you're on the ground floor of the hexagram. You are driven by the investigation. You want to discover how life works. Once you can firmly establish a secure foundation, then you're able to relax. You need to figure out what it is. You want to know what it is. So FOMO right here works so well for you on social media. People post some random product without the label, a picture, and they're like, this magic product did it for me. You're like, oh my goodness, I need to know what that is. You want to know what it is. And so you're always looking at busy doing studying, doing research. You need to secure the foundation. There's also a very deeply empathetic nature in the first line because it can understand how important that information is. And so it can understand how uncertain other people would feel when they don't have that security. And so it naturally gives them that empathy because they feel that when they're not secure, they understand, they want that secure foundation. And so the first lines really study the foundation. Study the behavior. They watch how other people interact. They learn to see what behavior works and what behavior doesn't. When they start to feel insecure, this is where that chameleon comes through. They'll start to change their colors to blend in because remember, they're about that foundation. They want to make sure they have that security. And so they're very good at letting you see what other people think you need to see. So they're very good at being very transparent. And so first lines can be very sensitive in a way that nothing is more important to them than being able to see that they can navigate on this plane and that everything is going to be okay. They need that kind of security. It's most common for their not self feeling to come into play because they don't allow themselves to focus on what is necessary that they want to build a foundation. So sometimes they get so lost in changing colors of that chameleon because they feel so insecure all the time that they lose what they truly need as that place of grounding. And so I'm a 1-3, like I said. And so I know for me, when I come into uncertain situations, I know yoga for me is automatically a grounding point. That I at least know, no matter what my situation is, if there's something like that, I can come back to yoga and at least have that to stable me and have that as my foundation. And so now we're going to move on to the second line. So second line are hermits. And so remember, these are the people who are on the living room. They have the curtains open, but they're staying inside. They want to observe from the outside. They are watching through the window. They're the natural, they're the projector, they're the Democrat. And so the second line is like a seed. They like to sit in the drawer for years, waiting for the right time to be planted so they can awaken and grow and produce its unique fruit. While the first line goes out and investigates in order to build a foundation, the second lines are the naturals who do not know where their gifts originate from. But the second lines just know when the time is right. They just know that one time it's just going to be right for them to come out, plant their seed, and they're going to do it. And so they are noticed for their natural talents or geniuses. But most of the time, they have to be called out to by others. And so a lot of times this genius is something that others may see that you may not. And so people will ask you for those gifts. And at first, because you're that hermit, you might want to be left alone. But when people ask you for the gift and it starts to flow out, all of a sudden that uncertainty goes away and you get empowered. You start to build that confidence because it was the natural gift that was offered. And so first lines need others to help them. Second lines are very self-contained and they feel very actually uncomfortable when other people step into their aura. They cannot, however, really explain what they do or how they do it. But most of the time, they're just like, just watch me do it. And so second lines take the observing of the first lines. They see that the first lines figured it out. And so they're like, okay, you know what it is. I saw that you know what it is. Now I'm going to take it. I know what it is, and I'm going to go play with it and figure out how it helps me. I don't need anybody else, right, to do that exploration. You can be very isolated. You want to figure out, because you're still on the personal journey, how is this going to personally benefit me? Now I don't need to figure out what it is. I already know what it is. Now I'm going to go take it and I'm going to figure it out. And so it's the analogy of the house that says that they're standing alone in front of the first window, lights on, but happily absorbed in their own play. But they're not realizing that other people are observing them. So they do play a very important role. The fourth line, the fifth line, all of the other people are observing how they're working. The ones are observing what they're doing with this product. Like they figured out what it is. Now the twos took it. And now the ones are still watching. We're still observing the behavior, right? How are they going to use it? How is it going to benefit them? And so they do play that important call. But then they're sitting to wait for the receive somebody to call them out. So they're want to be seen in front of that window. So then somebody can be like, oh my gosh, I like what you're doing. How did you do that? And when they get called out for it, their gifts naturally come. So then the third line is going to be our martyrs, our trial and errors, our mutations through adaptation, the mutation and adaptation. And so the great gift of the third line is discovering what does not work. And so that is key. What does not work? Your job is to figure out what is broken. And so for me, this took a long time. I'm still working on this because to me, if it doesn't work and I put all my energy in it and it doesn't work, I feel like it's a failure, right? We got to try to fix it. How do we fix it? But really, the whole lesson was to be like, nope, it doesn't work, to break the bond, to throw it away and to go on to something else. There are certain things that just don't work. We need to get rid of it and move out. And so as a transitional point between the first and the second source of the house, the personal and the transpersonal energies, this third line bumps into life all along the way. They bump into it, they discover through trial and error if it works, and then they move on. The third lines are our key catalysts of change. Even though at many times they appear socially inept, often feel alone, and they most of the time are interpersonal between the lower diagram and the upper diagram. And so a lot of the times, because they are constantly doing this trial and error process, they do feel alone because they're the only ones that kind of gives up on this. Society is kind of looking at it as you didn't give it long enough, right? Oh, you got to stick with it a little bit longer. See if you can figure it out. See if you can make it work. And so all of that is that struggle. But the natural gift is to be able to bounce back up and to go back at something else. And so the third line has this natural built-in resiliency to go again, to try again, and to see what else is going to work for them. And so they're going to notice what doesn't work in a relationship faster than anybody else, which is why their theme is the bonds are made to be broken. We're made to help people see that not everything's going to keep into place. And you know what, personally in my life, it is so interesting because as I feel this shift speeding up, I feel like karma speeding up. I feel like we can't kind of BS anymore. Once you kind of started on this authentic path and you're going to start feeling the ickiness, you're going to feel it even more and even more. You're going to realize you can't put that mask on anymore and play pretend. You don't want to. The universe is trying to wake you up and tell you not to. And so some of your relationships are going to start feeling that. And so But we have to understand that it's okay, that everybody in our life comes in to play a role in our journey, or sometimes we're actually a piece in somebody else's journey. We're just meant to be a little glimpse along the way, and we make a huge ripple that we don't even see the effects, right? And so we have to kind of have that understanding. And so that's the big piece for the third line to share between the personals and then the interpersonals, which are the people who are talking for the community, which we move up into the fourth line. And so the primary roles of all lines from 4 to 6 is the mechanics of the intrapersonal, the outer directed processes. How do we communicate inside society? How can we help this collective consciousness? How can we raise more awareness? Because once we have this understanding of the quantum physics, right, like we are all connected through all of our thoughts, through all of that way. And so the fourth line is our opportunist, our externalization, the friendliness. So the fourth line is in harmony with the first. They are the foundation for the second level. They build upon the security that the first creates. And so they're kind of sharing that security. They've observed the second line, they've observed the third line of doing all of this trial and error process. They're seeing what works, and now they're going to build that foundation for us to move forward with it, right? So how can we now, after we've all figured out all the interpersonal, all the personal people did their stories, this is why it's so important for people to share our stories, because there are people who are observing our personal stories. They're taking all of our stories, they're gathering all the data, and they're going to be like, okay, this is how we pieced it all together. This is what we should do as a society so we can, skip all those other processes. And so the third line is deeply involved with material resources. The fourth line is the foundation for the transpersonal relationships. Just like I said, concerned with human resources. How can we work together as a society? The fourth line is deeply influential, and it waits for opportunities to embrace its community and externalize the foundations, the gifts, or discoveries of those lower three lines, right? And so you've done the research. You're like, listen, I've tried out all of these different health and wellness products. Everybody's got it spread all around. I've realized that if we consolidate it into this one thing, it makes it easier, right? We can just take this one thing. So that's kind of what the fourth line is doing. And so they have a very innate friendliness. They are very akin to brotherhood or sisterhood. They facilitate through networking, a beautiful line of networking. They know that we are better as a whole. We are better with collaboration. We can do more together. And so this friendliness creates the opening that is needed for the susceptible surprise or shock. If we are starting to shift those changes, we need that friendliness to be like, okay, we're going to start this. It's going to be a little scary. We're going to be going into some transitions, but we need this big shift. Their sphere of influence, they are a sphere of influence. And so typically you're limited in your people that you're around because you want to build that strong connection. You're not for the strangers. You're going to have your close-knit community that's going to understand you, and you're going to rise them together. UA is perfect. We're all fours in this community trying to educate one another. And so we can rise collectively, right? And so the quality of life of the fourth line is directly proportional to the quality of your network. And so it is so important to know who your network is. Establishing your energy with the correct relationships allows you to enjoy a genuine camaraderie. And so it is, the more you have that network, the more you feel valued in wanting to share those gifts, to share your observations so that you feel valued to help rise. And so you also see, though, the different potential of opportunities that networking can offer. And so that's why it's also important to have these like-minded people. So you're like, look at this opportunity for us as a whole can work together. Our fifth lines are the heretics. They're universaling, the generals. They are our knights in shining armor. They are our natural saviors. They're the ones that want to go out and save the world. They're going to make our society better. They have that bigger picture. So they carry the responsibility of universalizing the message of the hexagram. And so with the fifth lines, they're the transpersonal karma. very effective as the stranger of consequence. They're like the general who steps in with the solutions, then they come up with that practical, that logical. They're the ones that build our foundation, that are like, okay, we had the war, we fought it all through, let's get through the rumble, let's build it all back up, right? They're those ones that are coming in. And so the heretics operate in projection field that seduces others to recognize the potential power that is there. But the fifth lines can be very suspicious as they see things in them that are not there, or have expectations that other people cannot meet. And so it's very hard sometimes when they can see the potential, or they're trying to rebuild something from crumbles, right? And they can see the possibility, they can see the potential, but how can they keep building that without holding on to that expectation, without holding on to that result, and keep going, right? If we hold on to that result, if we feel like we have to be that person that changes, that saves everything, and it doesn't go the way we wanted to, we feel that defeated. But that's not necessarily the point. We're not supposed to create it for that certain end result, right? It's more to understand through your strategy and authority, trusting that the right situations will come in so that you can step in and create a solution. And so if you're unaware of your projection field, the fifth lines may be flattered by and believed by others as saviors. And so, like I said, if you don't put up those boundaries, if you don't put in that responsibility and letting other people take on that, you're going to try to create all of these solutions for other people. You're going to drain your energy. You're not going to let people do their own part of that journey, right? And so you have to make sure that you listen to that strategy and authority, because you'll give people a solution and then they're not going to listen to it because they didn't ask you for that solution, but yet they kind of came to you with that pleading because they feel that energy. They know that you have that loving heart. They know that you have that. That's a part of our aura. Even these profile lines are a part of that you have that projection field. And so Ra says, whatever you're going to do in life, make sure that it has practical application. If that's the case, you will be successful, whatever it is. But if it's not, you'll have a reputational problem. It follows wherever you go. And so you do have a little bit more structure, a little bit more foundation in some of your ways. And so you don't want to just offer out all of this open savior for everybody, because there is a bigger, it's not just for a personal savior. You're here to do more of a savior for the society, or put in for a foundation, or help, create a bigger cause, right? Like do more of a charitable kind of savior rather than that personal kind of savior, if that makes sense, because you're in that societal role. And then so our last line is the sixth line, or role models. Remember, you're sitting up on the roof. And so you're our administrators, our optimists, our peacemakers. And so the sixth line completely stands alone from all of the others. It is best to describe as sitting on the roof, as I said. And so the sixth line works through 3 stages of life. And so stage 1, from birth until 30 years old, you're actually living through the 3rd line. You are playing trial and error. You are doing your personal destiny. You're figuring out what you like, what you don't like. You're doing those bonds are made to be broken. You're bouncing around from all over. You're doing all these different jobs. You're figuring out what you like. And then at stage 2, when you hit 30, you kind of go into the hermit stage. You kind of soak up the 2nd line. You just bounced around all the stuff you liked, all the stuff you didn't like. And now you're going to sit on the roof and you're going to soak it all in. You're going to observe and you're going to reflect. It's a time to discover what is trustworthy, not only for you, but for the rest of the world. So you have that personal destiny that you want to try, but you're still now up on the roof. You're going to observe your personal destiny as well as the 4th and the 5th lines and realize what is really valuable for the whole big picture. And so you reevaluate life. It's more, this is an inner retreat, and you're going to be here from 30 until 50. You have 20 years of kind of soaking it in, seeing what is good, what is going to help society. If you are a sixth line right now, this is a challenging time for you, but so important. We are going through huge changes, huge shifts with this pandemic, big things that are going to be coming with all of our structures, our education system, our government. Like, so many things right now are teetering and rocking. We're going to have this big revolution. And so the 6 lines, it's important for you to sit, to kind of take note, feel what feels right. When you're looking around, you're like, I don't really know. We got to kind of listen, like block our ears and get out of the media and listening to everything else and kind of come back in if you're a 6 line. And then at stage 3, when you hit 50, is when our Chiron returns. And that's why I like having the Chiron chart. And so that's when our Chiron returns, and that's when it's going to come, and it's really going to kick in our life purpose. Chiron, when we hit 50 for everybody, is going to be our life purpose. But it also, as our 6 lines, we now come off the roof. We have this knowledge. It's going to be when you really shine. If you've been struggling with your life purpose and what to do, and you're a 6th line, you're going to shine at 50. You're that ancient wise person. You're the wise owl that we talk about in those stories. That is going to be you. You're going to have this plethora of knowledge that is going to be so beneficial to change the world. And it's going to be the help awaken the rest of the world. And so it's to kind of have that little patience. Okay, so that was kind of the basic foundations of each of the different pieces. But as we build our profile with how they come together, it plays along with geometry. And so there is our juxtaposition cross, our crosses that are on our charts, and it's our inclination cross. And you'll also see on there, it should say if you're a right angle, if you're juxtaposition, if you're a left angle. And so this plays in with the kind of nature. So if it says that you are a left angle, you are a transpersonal destiny, which means you're either a 6-3, you're a 6-2, a 5-2, or a 5-1. You play a little bit in both hexagrams. If you notice, you had a number that was on top, you also had a number on the bottom. So you're playing both roles. You're going to learn about yourself, and then you're going to figure out how we can share that story with the world to benefit that. There is one person who has the juxtaposition. You're a fixed fate. You are the 4-1. You're the opportunist investigator. You stand alone. And I'm going to talk about that specific one just because it stands alone. And then if you are a right angle on your cross, you're in the personal destiny. This is our biggest group. Those are our 4 6s, our 3 6s, our 3 5s, our 2 5s, our 2 4s, our 1 4s, our 1 3s. You're all on the personal destiny. And so if we notice with that, our biggest role, we are all meant to do our own growth story. We are all meant to go on our story and share our story in some way, because our story is going to help ripple down through. And so it's just so interesting to see how it does play. Our stories do matter. Don't feel like you need to silence yourself. You don't know, even if it's 1, if it's 100, you never know how far it's going to ripple down. And so I'm going to actually start with the 4-1 just because it stands alone, and we actually have a 4-1 on here. What's up? Stabilizer resource. And so 4-1 profile. And so when we talk about the numbers, the first number on the top is going to be the black. So that's going to be your conscious side, your personality side. You're going to have a little bit more awareness here. And so this is your opportunist side. Your bonding strategy is either confident or not. You either trust it or you don't. And listen to that. Listen to that confidence. Your emotional renaissance is kindness versus meanness. Your awareness renaissance, funny, Jennifer, we talked about this, corrupt or not corrupt. If you're feeling that bad, not feeling, doesn't feel authentic, you feel that is part of your awareness strategy. It's either corrupt or it's not. It's going to go forth or it's not. They're lying or not. And so personal. for you. You're designed to study, to learn, and to establish a solid foundation in an area of life that fascinates you. And then you influence others with your knowledge base. Your foundation is whatever you love, and immerse yourself in it and just do that. And so this is what, like, there are so many times when I start reading these to people, they're like that. I'm like, that's your journey. Your journey is to love your life and to soak it up in it, and to be like, my hobby can create my life. I can create this magic. I can attract to me by doing the things I love. And that's that whole law of attraction. And that is your job, to share that with people, to share with people it's possible to do that. You're a fixed fate. That means that you serve, and hold on, I have to back up because I just saw this. So you're a unique profile that only fits 2% of the world's population. So 2%, like the least amount. And so it's a fixed fate. That means you serve the bridge between the right angle and the left angle. It's neither this nor that. It's not transpersonal or personal. There's only one juxtaposition, and that is you. You are a specific line in geometry, and you're like a train on a track. It has its movement and its direction that in life, it cannot be altered. And so when you're on your track, when you feel like you're in alignment, keep going. Don't let anybody push you off that track, because you do know that it will be there. And so immerse yourself in it. Investigating and becoming an expert on a topic transforms your insecurity into authority. Once you are established as an authority, you then go out there and you share that network. You share your influential expertise in that field. When your fourth line people skills have the natural ability, you have a natural ability to know how to communicate. And so, girlfriend, we were talking about how, I don't know why I can't speak the way I want to speak. You haven't completely submerged yet. You've been trying to get a little too out of it. You like the RV, you like the doing that. Just keep diving in that, keep camping, keep doing that. Don't worry about anything else, and let everything else fall into place. Your role is to network and to bring together the research and the development of the personal destiny that comes then along with the marketing and the universalizing the transpersonal destiny. So by you doing you show people that we attract our tribe, and that by attracting our tribe, we then network, and then we go and we grow and we get bigger, right? And so that fixed fate of life is following your unique line of geometry, and whatever it may be. And so investigate, externalize, look at your personal sun and your earth in your body graph. And I'm actually going to talk about this at the end, because I had somebody, that's going to be our next call, is going to talk about looking at our sun signs, our earth signs, because that is what creates our life purpose. So our life purpose is our combination of our incarnation cross, our Chiron, our Saturn, our moon, and then we add in the sun and the earth. And so once we can start understanding some of this, we can start adding in all of the astrology on our unique purposes. But what we need to understand first is that so many of us, our destiny is not about a career. It's not about something that they created as a job out there that we need to go out and to do. A lot of it is just figuring out what job we want to create to make us happy, that we can fit into this 3D world of creating the paper material, of the material that we need, right? And so you're interpersonal. So as you go out there, life and people are the real education for you. As you learn through interaction that not everybody sees the world in black or white, right and wrong, like the way you do. And so it's from going out there, meeting new people, listening to their stories, hearing their perspective is going to help build your understanding. It's going to help you build your network, and it's going to help you share those other things with people. And so sometimes it might feel like a rude awakening to you, though, when you don't understand why people don't see the things the way, don't see the world the way you do. And sometimes it can bring heartache. So 4-1s learn through these experiences, however. It's their fixed fate that keeps you moving. It's important to stay above the fray. And in addition to their broader network, you need that trusted circle of friends and confidence who can provide unconditional loving offering support without resistance. It's the opportunist investigators who love to enjoy to study human behavior, and you can enjoy maybe in looking at sociology, psychology, astrology, and or human design. This might fascinate you because once you understand people more, it might help you understand that, okay, this makes sense on why not everybody sees the world like I do. And so that's why it helps to understand, like I said, even if you are not all of these profiles, which you're not, it helps understand how other people are going to think, because then when we can understand that, we can have that acceptance, we can have that compassion, and then ultimately we have that unconditional love. And that's why I really want to share this with people, because I feel like all we really need is a little bit more acceptance of how different we all are, so that we can have that unconditional love. And until we can have acceptance, unfortunately, we're not going to have any unconditional love. And so that's my 1-4s, my big surprises. And so I'm going to jump into 5-1 because she's on the call as well too. And then I'm going to do our most popular one is going to be like our 3-6, and I'm going to do that afterwards. And so let's see, I said 5-1. And then of course, if anybody wants their personal, if you want to know your exact one, just reach out to me. You can reach out to me on Telegram. You can email me. I would love to share any of that with you. Okay, so as a 5-1, the heretic investigator. And so this is a transpersonal. And so this is going to be more focusing on our community side. And so the conscious part of this is going to be the heretic, the general. Your bonding set strategy is you're either the seducer or you get seduced. This is how people end up getting you to save them, right? They come at you begging, pleading, crying, like, woe is me, help me, right? That's their seduction. And it pulls at your heartstrings. Your emotional resistance is selflessness and selfishness. And so that's going to kind of be like, you start helping as a point of selfish or selflessness. But then there's going to be that part of that person you're helping. You're like, okay, you're draining me. You're becoming selfish, right? We have to find that strategy. And then your awareness resistance is discipline versus rebellion. And again, finding those boundaries. Where can we put those boundaries into place? And I'm gonna put this discipline in because I have to empower you to save yourself, right? And then if you put too much boundaries on too much, then you might push the other way for that rebellion and the other way, and then they're not helping you grow, right? As a foundation, they're gonna rebel off. And so let's talk about our personal. So a transpersonal destiny means that you're here to deal with karma, and you are designed to have encounters with others that can be important and potentially mutative for both you and them. Wow, so interesting, because we're talking about family stuff. So you might learn a little bit about how to deal with family. And also to understand, and especially when we talk about children, our children picked us as parents to teach us lessons. We have to understand that it works that way. They were brought here to teach us something. And so we have to respect and understand that's part of their path. And so if you can picture your life path as a grid with intersecting points that represent each encounter, you can start to understand why and how you are destined to meet certain people in your life who are here to assist you, as well as receive assistance for you. So for you, it is all about the people you meet in any situation. You go into a new job, you go into the store, the person at the register starts talking. It could be anywhere. Somebody starts talking to you, invite that, because there is some kind of connection that some reason you were meant to meet this person. You were going to teach something. Like I said, sometimes certain people are brought into our lives because we're part of their journey, or vice versa. And so people are playing very interesting roles, and it is all about the different connections for you and how that's going to play in a karmic span. And so these karmic encounters, which very often feel like deja vu, they can be as complex as a business arrangement or as simple as somebody asking you for directions, just like I said. And so you are aware, though, on some level of your conscious transpersonal fifth line. You have that alluring, seductive line that is continuously projected upon. Others feel, without even knowing you, that you have something important and helpful that they need. So you might be like, I don't even, like, people could come up to you at the grocery store, you don't even work there. They'd be like, hey, do you know where I can get this? You'd be like, why are people asking like simple things like that, or ask you for directions or anything? That's part of your aura. That's part of who you are. You have that warming heart that they just will ask. And so others project onto you what you can lead, guide, help, or save them. And when it's the right projection, you enjoy filling this role. And so this is where this is important to listen to your strategy and your authority. Do I have energy to take on the savior? You ask your authority that. Remember, we get out of our head. We don't do it logically. It's our gut. It's whatever. And so there are times when the projection you're feeling is not the right one for you, but you feel insecure, or you know that that person wants it. If you say yes when it's not correct, you get caught up in that web. You're going to get caught up in that alignment. Your not self theme might come through. And so it's really important to start playing with this and to understanding this. And especially if you've already have life experience, kind of go back through, right? Like, we might not have to relive some of this stuff. Look at some of your times in your life where you did help somebody maybe a little too far. You didn't ask if you had the energy for it. You just felt obligated to, or it was just so dire that you felt like, if nobody, I'm the only one, nobody else will do it, which is a very a feeling that is very untrue, because that's the way that the energy will work. Somebody will pick up that slack. And so we have to kind of let go. Sometimes it feels like the hopes and the dreams of humanities rest on the shoulders of the fifth line. And that can be a huge responsibility to carry. And the best way to operate within the expectations of this field is to have a solid foundation of that strategy and authority. You have to be able to come back to listening to that intuition. When is it the right time for you? And so the interpersonal coming out into the society, you're here to aspire to make the other people heretic investigators aspire to make themselves personally attractive in order to improve their chances of universalizing, as well as seducting another partner into their field. And so you want that partner, you want a partner with you. And so it's about playing with that seduction. And so there's vulnerabilities and insecurities that are here, though. Few people have ever truly known the fifth line, as they are, they hold on to their energy. They make it very hard for people to read it. And so it can be very hard for other people to understand your projection field. And so you need to remember that you have to return to keeping yourself happy. And so when you get too caught up in trying to please other people, not only are you burning yourself out, it blurs your energy. It blurs where is the strong part, where are the correct people, where are that network, where is that person that you're looking for going to come from. And so you might think that the more people I help, the bigger variety I do, the more you're doing, but you're actually draining your energy, you're depleting it. And then it's almost like you're depleting the big skill that you have. You have this one powerful skill, this one thing that you're supposed to let out. And rather than waiting patiently for that time to come, you spread yourself too thin. And so it's to come back to that authenticity, to come back to who you are. And so, you have to come back to who you are so that you can universalize that. And so I'm going to do 6-2 since that's also on our call. She hopped back on. 6-2 is also another transpersonal. And so we just had a transpersonal with a 5-1, working a little bit interpersonal, and then how do they come out into society? Same thing here. Our role model hermit. And so our role models play a big part for us. And now having a hermit side too is going to kind of really kickstart the personal destiny. And so the transpersonal role model hermit is here to show us how to live authentically without being dependent on outside people. And it's to realize that we have to accept our own unique perfection. And so this can be very hard because the 6-2 a lot of times is isolated, especially when they are in their 20 or their 30s to 50s, when everybody right now in our society is out and about. They're focusing on all of these awards, all of these careers. You feel like this is your time that you have to shine to make something of yourself. This would be a very hard time for this profile because you are naturally feeling like you got to sit on the roof. You are here to observe. You are here to learn. And nobody's understanding that. They're like, why aren't you out there doing? And so this is why you feel the way you feel. And to understand though, now that there is a little chemical makeup of it and that there is a reason behind it. And so you can feel a little bit out of sync. You have the bird's eye view of life. And so you can see the big picture and you are wise beyond your years. Profiles without a 6th line do not have the ability to see life the way you do. And so you do have a futuristic view. You are up on the roof. You are observing everything. You will also have the view of the first line on the next hexagram, which kind of gets a little hairy. It's almost like houses are stacked up. And so you have that futuristic thing on what's going to be our next structure, right? You're sharing with us the important thing that society needs to build on, because our next foundation is going to learn, it's going to grow, it's going to come up. And so you have that vision there. And so the profiles, when you combine your 6 and your 2 lines, it gives you the capacity to be a democratic administrator. You're a unique, capable, and wise authority. And so with all 6 lines, you go through the 3 stages, but your unconscious 2nd line feels good in the stage 2, right? And so now when you hit 50, you're going to receive a calling. You're going to re-engage with life. Your role model is going to start to come to live the example of the wise, the aware, the objective, judging observer. And then you're going to start to be noticed. You're going to have this transpersonal power. And all of a sudden, somebody's going to ask you about your gift. And that's when that 2nd line, that 2nd natural gift comes out. It gets called out. So a life of harmony for you means no agendas and no pressure to prove yourself. I'm going to say that too again, because I know you know who I'm talking to. A life of harmony for you means no agendas or no pressure to prove yourself. Your ability to stay above the fray, removed from the insignificant dramas of life, helps you maintain objectivity. You are most interested in things with depth and meaning. Trivial stuff means nothing to you. And so if you are surrounded by that trivial stuff, if you're surrounded by that, you need to find a little bit more of a network with high vibe people, more spirituality, do more reading, do something like that that can help you understand this, that you do not need some of this basic trivial stuff. As a transpersonal person, you are not someone, you are someone, that others are going to go to, and your advice carries a lot of weight. Like I said, when people are going to ask for you, that 2nd line comes out. And so your natural genius, your innate talent must be protected and allowed to unfold naturally. And so this is where we have to trust. You have to trust that you don't have that agenda. You have to just trust that life is going to unfold for you. People are going to ask for that gift. It's going to be more likely after you come out of 50. And so right now you are observing, you are taking the time to do what you love to do. You are not a generalist. There is a specific and a special call that will allow you to bring out your gifts and embody your role model power. This is not something that you will find by seeking. It must be called out by others. There is a notable, self-sufficient, optimistic, and visionary quality that just emerges from you if you are able to stay in your process. Be patient, maintain your perspective, and safeguard your natural talents. You, my beautiful friend, are going to share the world. And so honor where you are right now. Block out all the noise that you have to do something. Your strategy and your authority will guide you to the correct people. You're interpersonal, you're idealist, looking for the perfect life in the perfect mate, someone that they can stand with, relate to, and be proud of. The potential partner must be bold, and they have to be able to break through your 6-2 barriers. It's somebody that they must trust. The third part of your sixth line is the developmental process, something that all human beings are going to go through. And it's going to be modeled by you as being showing us how to live the true, authentic life. You 6-2, because you have that hermit, you have that extra personal piece, are really going to be the ones that show us how to live authentically, to not care about the outside noises. And so honor that, how beautiful that is. How we doing? How's everybody doing? We're at probably about 45 minutes now. I've shared a couple. I do have one more in the chat. I think I'm going to read about the 2-4. And then I'm going to kind of stop the recording here. And then, like I said, if you have any more specific ones that you want me to read yours, please reach out to me. And so our 2-4s. And so this is a great one to do because this is a personal destiny. So we didn't read a personal destiny. And so this is really focused on them. You're focused on you. You're focused on how it feels, how you relate into life. And so within the first, within this hexagram, you are the Hermit opportunist. So the Hermit is the Democrat. Your bonding strategy is shyness and boldness. So you either feel it or it's almost like you're going to get intimidated by it. Your emotional resistance is advanced or withdrawn. Same thing about that shyness, that boldness. You're either going to go for it or you're going to get really withdrawn out of it. And your awareness is you're determined or you're not. And so you are a natural who is here to be called out by others to share your innate talents and genius. Remember that too, that hermit has that unique genius. They don't want to share it. They don't even necessarily know what it is, but that's what other people can feel. You have a built-in barrier, such as a limited point of view that protects you and your unique genius from being corrupted by outside interference. This barrier, however, has a weak spot where it can be penetrated. And from the right person at the right time, they can break a profound transformation in your life and propel your purpose and your destiny out into the world with a missionary zeal. Like, it's going to happen, it's going to click, and you're going to be like, oh my goodness, where did this come from? But you go running and you just know. And so you don't like to be called out all the time, however. Just answering any calls puts tremendous stress on your body. Improper use of your energy results in fatigue, burnout, and eventually exhaustion. Continually answering the wrong calls turns that barrier into a thicker barrier. You're going to start rejecting those calls, and then therefore you're going to start to miss out on that important opportunity. And so when you are called, you have to listen to your strategy and authority. You're incredibly impressed, though, to when you feel this internal unforeseen force explode out into you, when you didn't even realize you have this gift. So when the right call comes, it just flows out. You don't know where it comes from. It's coming out and it just comes. You're being pushed and motivated by your unconscious fourth line. But your second line has a way of keeping you blocked. And so the 2-4 consciously always has this little battle between them. They have this battle of wanting to stay quiet, wanting not to say anything with the hermit, but that 4, that friendly 4, that person who wants to share is going to constantly nudge you out. And so that's going to be that's the subconscious side. And so when you feel those little nudges of, I'm not sure why I should do this or listen to this call or what, those are the ones you want to jump on though. You're very particular about your environment and you enjoy having things arranged in a specific way that feels good for you so that you can be left alone to do your thing. So you have your cave so that you can retreat, your sanctuary, a place like you can feel like you can learn through uninterruption. Remember that second line likes to take the stuff, learn what it does. And so they will need that space to do that. So then when they figure it out, that fourth line can come out and share. Your unconscious fourth line, your instinct for networking is the most effective way for attracting opportunities for your calling and achieving success and security in the world. You must, however, be called to the correct networks. When your networks, they are your networks when you feel nourished and when you can nourish others. And you'll feel that energy there. There's no judgment. There can be some wrong networks where you end up being dependent on other people's resources. You are not designed for strangers, just like the other fourth line. The only way a stranger can reach you is the only way a stranger can reach you correctly is by being introduced to you by somebody that you trust. And so it has to be a trusted friend. They really have to say, hey, I value this person. I want you, I trust that they're going to value your advice, your energy, and that's going to be the only way. And so interpersonal, you create bonds through shyness and boldness. Your hermit shyness calls out the other to be bold enough to break down the barriers to intimacy, to establish a relationship first. You're only open to specific people. This is how you can enter into the right relationships. It's the correct way for you to enter into a business commitment or partnership is through a network. So it's not the best to just go into a blind interview or to just receive a call or to answer a call off of an ad or something like that. You kind of want to know the network. You want to know the people that you're already going to be working with. That's going to make you feel the best, make you feel like you have those powers to do that. And so I'm going to kind of stop this with that specific stuff. I'm going to leave it recording and open for any of those who are on right now. If you have a question about how the profile works out, or if we don't really have any questions about that, and then I'm going to kind of stop the recording with just the basic info. The main thing that I wanted us to kind of see is, yet again, this is another layer, right? We learned about our type, which is kind of the setting of our story. We learned about which is our aura, how we really attract, how our energy is affecting and being affected by other people's energy. And now we work with our strategy and authority as we start to learn about our profile, which is really our character, our personality, dives a little bit deeper into some of our basic personality stuff. And then, like I said, we're going to start to jump into now learning about the different gates and how we can look at our chart to figure out some of our personal destiny, how we can look at our sun, our earth signs to help ground us. And we're going to start going into different kind of workshops in that way on how to read the chart through gates, either just looking at through connecting points, through channeling points, and then looking at it, like I said, in ways of the astrology and by looking at the sun and the earth and everything like that. And so, does anybody have any questions that they want to share now that I can open up to? If you don't want to share at this moment, we can hold on and we can share after. No. All right. Well, thank you so much. If you want me to do your specific profile, find me on Telegram, find me on Facebook, put it in our group chat. If you're in our Telegram group chat, I can always share it on there, especially if I see that we have so many repeated ones. It would be great to just do a little voice clip to share it in the group so then we can understand some more personality types. So thank you all for joining me, and I'll talk to you soon.